Hi, this is Bree.
Hi, this is Rich.
We're with the Black Comic Lords, and we just stepped into the Vactorverse.
I am Vactor, and this is the Vactorverse. I have the esteemed pleasure of having two Black Comic Lords on the show today, Mr. Rich Wright and Miss Bree Forbes from the Black Comic Lords. They not only review, promote, and educate, but they also celebrate Black comic book characters, books, and Black comic book creators. So thank you very much, Bree and Rich, for joining me today on the Vactorverse.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Thank you.
So I'm loving everything that the channel is doing, Black Comic Lords, on all of the social medias. Hopefully one day I can have everybody, all of the Lords on the show today, but I'm very happy that you are both here to join me. Let's start off with your comic book origin stories, how you got in, what kind of hooked you, and what has kind of made you want to talk about this in a general setting. Bree, let's start with you first. How did you get into comics?
Yeah, so I'm an avid reader all around. I love science fiction and fantasy, specifically QT BIPOC science fiction and fantasy. And one of my favorite authors of all time is N.K. Jemisin.
Ooh, yes.
She is legit the queen of science fiction and fantasy.
Yes.
She's like the next step after Octavia E. Butler. So I hold her in high esteem. And she dipped her toe into the comic book world by writing Far Sector.
Yes.
One of the more recent Green Lantern stories. And I was screaming about another of her series, the Broken Earth trilogy, which is insane. If you want to have your mind blown, go check that out. But because of that, my sister looked up her name and found all of these Far Sector books, and she surprised them with me when she came to visit. And I was like, yo, I didn't even know this was a thing. I immediately was like super immersed and was like, I have to get all of these. Like, when does the next book come out? Like, and the intensity of that was just like, I need more of this feeling. Like, what else is out there? Like, who are some other authors that might be doing comics as well? And another book that was out at the time was House of Whispers by Nalo Hopkinson. And I hold her in high esteem as well as an author. So I was like, let's just keep rolling down this train. And honestly, it was like rabbit hole effect after that.
Nice.
I looked for a local comic shop and found Cape and Cow, Oakland, and they like embraced me with open arms. And they're like, so now they know me. If I come in, they're like, oh, I have a woman of color rec for you. And that's just how it goes. Yes.
Beautiful. That is perfect. Rich, how did you get into this game?
Wow. Well, as you know, I'm an older guy, so I've been in this for a minute. Initially, I was in elementary school and had a buddy of mine. We used to talk about mythology a lot.
Ooh.
And that was one of our favorite things to talk about. And so we were having a discussion, and I just remembered this not too long ago. We were having a discussion about Greek gods, and he knew a lot about Norse gods. I didn't. So I found out that he was a comic head. And so we kind of bonded around, comics then. So, and we're talking like 75, 76, maybe. And so first book that really just blew my mind was Black Lightning #1 back in 1977. So when I first saw that on Spinner Rack, I was amazed. I saw this black man with a big fist pummeling a white dude. I was in. So you know what I'm saying? That's just keeping it real. But it just really blew my mind. I had never seen nothing like that before. And so I've been off and on collecting since then. I've been in and out of the hobby, quite a bit. I stepped out in the late 80s, and I jumped back in early 90s. And with the advent of Milestone and Spawn at the time. Then I left the hobby again and came back in like 2017. So like I said, I've been kind of in and out. but I got over, close to 15,000 comics in my 40-year collection. So, so I've been, like I say, in and out. So, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's perfect. That's similar to me. I was kind of life happened and in and out, and different things kind of brought me back and then took me out a little bit. Got married, had a kid, and then kind of always in the background of my mind, I'm like, especially with all the movies coming out and TV shows, superheroes are hot, and I'm always thinking about comics. But actually, it was podcasting that really brought me back in, because I was like, I got to talk about these. All these books are coming out and things like that. So yeah, that's very interesting. I love hearing both of your stories and the different time periods that you got in, and the different the ways that you got in. And Bree, it's really something that I learned later along my comics journey of, oh, wait a minute, these books are written by people. There are authors behind these characters. And that's, I started to, once I noticed that, and I was like, oh, if I liked this artist or this writer on one book, I'll most likely like them on another one. And so I've had that kind of same journey of, if they were writing a comic and then they wrote a novel and then back to comics, I've kind of followed different artists, and that's been a similar journey as to mine as well. So that's fantastic. I'm really, actually, we did, I actually had another comic book show where we did Far Sector as our book of the month, and we wanted to spotlight N.K. Jemisin. That was my first experience with her at all. So I thought, yeah, that book was crazy. And what was the mind-blowing series you said?
It's called the Broken Earth Trilogy, and I scream about this series to everyone because N.K. Jemisin was not the first Black woman or the first Black person. She was not the first woman. She was the first person, period, to ever get 3 consecutive Hugo Awards for the same series. So she's like legit goated.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's the way that I pull all of my other fellow readers into comics too. Like, here, you love NK, read this.
Nice. Yeah, I'm hoping they do more with that Lantern, because there hasn't been like a huge, especially like live action stuff. I haven't seen a whole lot, so hopefully we'll get a little bit more from that Green Lantern.
For sure. I got some promo stuff for this Dawn of DC event.
Yes.
And it features Joe Mullen. So I'm like, fingers crossed that it'll be something substantial instead of just like she popped up with the team somewhere. You know how they do.
Right. That's 100%. Actually, have either of you thought about live action? Like, who would be a good Joe Mullen in live action? I know everybody talks about
Janelle Monáe.
Yes, Janelle Monáe. And just because of the hairstyle.
Yeah.
I always, who I was actually thinking was the actor that was on Star Trek Discovery, and she was on Walking Dead. Yes. I think she would be a perfect Joe Mullen. Have either of you thought about any casting?
I like darn it, I'm terrible with actresses' names, but she was in the newer Jurassic World movie.
Oh.
And she darn it, she would kind of rescued them. She was driving a helicopter. This woman is stunning, but she has like the physique and kind of the attitude to pull it off. Because so Joe Mullen was where her character was kind of stylized around Janelle Monáe's like original, but I don't know, I kind of see her being a more like statuesque, imposing figure, as opposed to like petite, more so fun size like Janelle Monáe is. Nothing against Janelle Monáe, because I love her so much. I just pictured Joe Mullen having more of like a sturdy presence, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's 100%. Actually, yeah, the way that the artist, I think it was Jamal Campbell was the artist. Yeah, the way he, because like there was panels where I was like, oh, I didn't know she was that thick. Like there was other panels where it kind of like popped out at me. But that was, I could see that being kind of a sturdier girl.
I I mean, in my personal favorite would be Jodie Lynn Smith,
Ooh,
the
okay.
sister that played Queen and Slim. I like
Oh
her.
yes, right.
I would get behind that 100%. That's
Yeah,
an
I
Yes,
like
excellent
her.
cast,
So,
Rich.
yes, yeah. You
yeah,
know
I
what?
think she'll
That's
be a dope.
yeah, that would be fantastic, man. Yeah, because I almost feel like Janelle Monáe is too safe, and it's like
Yeah.
it's too on the nose because of, like I said, because of that hairstyle specifically. Other than that, I didn't see any other similarities to Janelle. Which Janelle Monáe is a great actress, and
Yeah.
she would probably kill it in the role. But I just sometimes it's like too obvious. Like I want to go
Yeah.
the other direction when they say that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's interesting. I want to get both of your origin stories for Black Comic Lords. How did you both get involved, and what is Black Comic Lords for those who don't know? Rich, I'll ask you first.
Well, Black Comic Lords is a collective of enthusiasts, hobby enthusiasts in terms of comics. We just congregate around, the fandom itself, and with a focus on Black comics, Black creators, and whatnot. As far as our, origin story, whatever, Black Comic Lords actually was birthed out of another group, Facebook group called Black Superheroes Forever. And it began with a couple of guys, and it started in its embryonic state, if I can say it like that, with just me and another guy just talking trash on Sunday nights. That's kind of what it was.
Nice, yes.
And the conversations began to become deeper, and they began to take shape, and then we got more people involved, and we've got great people like Briana here, who's joined our ranks, because all of us have blinders or blind spots, and we need people that can see past what we see.
Right,
and so
right.
we didn't want, because Black Comic Lords is not a monolith. We come from different various backgrounds, and we all Black folks for the most part, and we love Black folks, and so that's pretty much it in a nutshell, though. So great.
Okay, sweet. Bree, do you have some memories of joining Black Comic Lords? Like, did you get recruited, or did you see it and you said, "Oh, I want to join them"?
Yeah, so it was actually a really cool thing. I like I said, I'm an avid reader outside of comics, so I have my book club and my platform outside of that. And I decided that for a year I was going to intentionally only read things written by Black or BIPOC creators, period.
Oh, okay.
Nothing else was going to touch my shelves for that period of time. And I got really invested. Like I told you, I started with Far Sector, and then I got into Livewire and some other ones. And every time I would go to the comic shop, I'm like, where are the Black women heroes at? Throw them at me. That's what I want to see. And they were giving awesome recs, but I was like, there has to be more than this. So that ferocity behind where are all the Black women heroes at took me down the rabbit hole, searching, and I found Black Superheroes Forever on Facebook, and the community there is so awesome. They talk about Black superheroes in every respect, so all forms, all types of media, super cool. And I noticed people referencing Black Comic Lords in that group. And so I was like, let me see what they're talking about over here. And when I tell you, the impact was phenomenal, because as soon as you hit the group, everyone comes at you with all of this massive welcome, and it felt like such a community. But then you also have people like Rich, like an OG, triple OG. He's been collecting longer than I've been alive. You know what I'm saying? So his extreme wealth of knowledge, just the gems that they would just randomly drop in these aside conversations, I was like, oh yeah, this is the space for me, because I'm trying to learn about this and get my feet wet and build my own collection. So it was just a phenomenal experience, because it was just Black as hell. I'm sorry, can I curse on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
It was just super Black. everybody in there is like such a vibe. Everyone's super supportive. Like, you can mention something in the chat and be like, hey, I'm looking for this book, or I'm looking for a book that's like this, or I remember reading something about this around this time and it gave me these vibes. And these guys will just come in like, oh, you're talking about this issue, this where you can get it, here's the link. And it's like, that's what I'm looking for. This is the space for me. Like, regardless of where you are in your comic collecting journey, it's a support system. It's a family. They help you, build your collection to however you want it to be. And I just stuck around because it's like, this is exactly what I was looking for. And my collection is tremendously richer because of it.
That's perfect. Because that's something that when I was getting into comics, it was not necessarily like a huge support system. And that was just based on my location. Also, my dad was in the Air Force, so we were moving around every 18 months. So it was like, I didn't have a whole lot of people close to me for a long period of time. And back then, this was before the internet, this was before cell phones. So when you moved, it was like, all right, I'm probably not going to see you again. Maybe if we are pen pals, we might write each other, but we're not writing letters to each other. So I was a different person every couple months, and then the comics kind of took a back seat. But once podcast, internet, like when I can connect with people across the nation, across the world, that completely changed it. And having like a support system, I think is really important, because having that sense of family, having that sense of people have my back, they can recommend stuff to me, or they can steer me, and especially, like you said, triple OGs like Rich can guide you and say, hey, I've been there before. I got the experience. I can tell you what was good. I can tell you the history of all this. So that's fantastic. I'm really happy, Bree, that you had that experience. And I'm happy that Rich is here to give us knowledge and drop stuff on us. Actually, Rich, I was going to ask you, is there anything, I didn't prepare you for this, so this is kind of just off the top. Is there anything right now that you're really like, you want to tell people about? Like, if somebody came up to you and said, hey, what should I be reading? What should I be checking out? What's something that you would tell them right now?
You know what? It's really, here's the thing. Here's the thing about being older, I should say. Because what happens is, and I'm so serious when I say this. What happens is, you see everybody's checking out the hot book or the book that's on the wall. And so you're kind of like looking for something else. I know everybody's reading this, but I'd rather read this. Briana brought up, looking for Black, females, or I'm sorry, Black women, superheroes, right?
Yep.
And there's Lion Forge put out a book a few years ago called Superb. And Superb is like 16 issues. Sheena Howard wrote on it. David Walker wrote on it. It's pretty amazing. So I'm collecting that now. And, I've been kind of reading that. As far as the new stuff, I mean, right now I'm a horror guy. So Rodney Barnes, Philadelphia, Nita Hawes. Matter of fact, the whole Philadelphia universe. I'll just say it like that. That's amazing. That guy has, he's probably a vampire, and we just don't know it. We just don't know it. I mean, the guy's got, a lot of material that's out, but I'm enjoying him. DC is doing some amazing things, and of course, all the milestone stuff. I'm enjoying that as well. But I mean, for me, I was having a conversation with a buddy of mine, and we were just talking, and it's like, okay, when you read the newer stuff, and it's fine, and that's the thing about, you don't necessarily know something is great in the moment you're reading.
Right.
It's until you step away from it or a little time goes by. Because I tell anybody, if they ask me, if you ask me, who's my favorite, comic book writer, it's Dwayne McDuffie. And Dwayne McDuffie, he's known for the milestone stuff. But Dwayne McDuffie wrote X-O-Man, Man of War, which is a Valiant title. He wrote She-Hulk, of course, which is a Marvel. The 2-issue series that he did, that was very phenomenal. he also created, Damage Control, which got a credit in the last Spider-Man movie.
Right.
And I kind of, he's kind of the bar as far as when I look at comics or whatever. And I was sharing with a buddy of mine, and like I say, when you're older, it's not that you're wiser or whatever. You've just been exposed to more stuff, and you've caught more bricks than anybody. So if I tell Briana, don't mess with that, or you might want to look at this, it's not that I don't want her to do that. I don't want her to waste the money, number one, and I don't want her to I want her to enjoy, and also too is you gotta also make sure you give room and grace and space for those to kind of like catch their lumps too, in a way.
Right.
Because that's a part of it. Because the thing about comic book collecting is that it's not a science. It's literally on the job training. And, we have this saying in our community, collect what you love. Because if you don't, you will have a collection full of stuff that will sit in your long boxes and you can't barely give away. So, it's one of those things, man, where I enjoy comics, period. I just don't read black comics. My favorite character is Batman. Yeah, so but I read everything. I read, different genres. I read superhero stuff. I read, science fiction stuff. I read a little bit of everything. And but I tell people, whatever niche you enjoy, like Bree, she loves science fiction. You can't go wrong with that. And you go after the books that are like that. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if she's into Star Wars or Star Trek, but I would tell you that Star Wars and Star Trek comics are amazing. I'll be perfectly honest. You don't necessarily need the movies or the TV shows or any other things outside of that form to enjoy that material. And so, and again, it's all subjective, but if I make a recommendation or whatever, I find merit. And so if I tell you this is a good book, you can take it to the bank. It's a good book. But that's because I've had, close to 40 years of reading this stuff or whatever, because you get to experience nuance like story flow, things of that nature, what a panel can speak. If there's no words, can that panel talk to you? Things like that. Those are things that you may not necessarily notice. The best comic book writers don't use a lot of, comics don't have to be wordy. Some people dig that. Shout out to Jonathan Hickman. You don't have to use a lot of words. I mean, you could, the less is more, if I could say it like that. So as a comic head, what I'm saying, I look for a guy to give me a little inspiration, but at the same time, don't give me everything. Allow my imagination to go places as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's something that I always try to champion for comic books. It's what happens in between the panels. That's what your mind is filling in, and that's the storytelling space that TVs, movies, those things can't, recreate. It's unique specifically to graphic novels, comic books, that this storytelling medium, it's very unique to it. So that's what I've always been interested in wanting to get more people to read comic books, because today it's like, all right, video games, TikTok, and whatever's in your face at the moment, and it's done in 10 seconds. But comic books and reading in general, just it's a little bit slower burn, and you're just engaging in a different way. So I'm always trying to champion comic books in whatever form it is. It doesn't matter if it's horror, sci-fi, superheroes, romance, whatever it is. I think there's something for everybody, and comic books are not a genre. It's a medium. It's something that is just a storytelling medium. So I'm always interested in stuff like that, Rich. And I'm loving when the OGs can come in and school everybody and give them this game, because there are people that are coming up now that I was like, yo, this guy just came out like last week and he hasn't read any of the comics that I've been reading for the last 20 years. And he thinks he's an expert out here.
Yeah.
So I'm always interested when that happens. But this is great, man. This is what I love about comics. This is the type of conversations I would have if I was in a comic shop. This is what I would want to have, this type of engagement. Bree, I wanted to ask if you had any recommendations. We know the N.K. Jemisin section, so everything that has her name on it, pick it up. But do you have any other things that you've been recently like checking out that you've been kind of really into, or is it, you've been so busy lately you haven't had a chance?
Oh no, we always make time for the comics. My weekly pulls will get out of control if I don't, so for sure. But as Rich hit the nail on the head, my collection is steered around women of color in comics. So I normally gravitate towards that first. And he also knows that I'm a sci-fi fantasy kind of gal all the way down. So like, he also hit the nail on the head about Star Wars and the fact that it's separate from the movies. Cause like my favorite Star Wars character is Dr. Afra. And you wouldn't know about her if you weren't like into comics like that. But, a character that was adjacent to her in her stories was Sana Staros, and she has her run happening right now, and it's black as hell. It's bad bitches in space. Give me that every day. And any book like you'll catch a theme.
It's a good book.
Sana Staros, Tartarus by Johnny Christmas, Space Bandits. Like you're catching a theme here. Like this is in space. I'm gonna pick that book up every single time.
Okay, I need to move that up because I saw it when it came out. Now I love Dr. Afra. That is one of my favorite characters in any medium. But I saw I'm behind on the Dr. Afra book #1, and then when I saw the Sana book coming out, I was like, oh dang, I need to catch up on that. But I haven't even cracked it open yet. So as we talked about off mic before the camera came on, this is one that I'm now going to move up on my list. I've had it in my list, but I am moving it now to the top of my list because of your recommendation. So thank you.
Yes, of course.
Have you had a chance, either of you actually, Rich or Bree, have you had a chance to check out any of the Moon Girl stuff that Marvel's been putting out lately, whether it was the comic or the show?
So I'm sorry, Rich, if you were going to speak.
No, go ahead.
Moon Girl is one of my favorite characters just because it's so lighthearted, and it's one of those stories that makes me feel like, I wish I would have been into comics when I was younger. And so like I have a lot of like nieces and nephews, and all of my nieces are like, read this book. It's so cute. There's all these great, messages to it. It's security in yourself. So I love those stories. Read all the original volumes of that. How I talked about how authors that I love transitioning to comics is what pulled me in, and how I pull other people in. The woman who wrote the more recent Moon Girl run, she had a book out that I really enjoyed, and so I'm super excited about that. But Stephanie Williams is one of my like auto-buy comic authors. So if her name is on a book, I'm copping it, point blank, period. She is the sole reason why I actually got the Marvel Unlimited app. Because her current Moon Girl story is only available on that app.
That's that Infinite one.
Yeah, but it's excellent, man. It's excellent. So yeah, just absolutely don't sleep on Moon Girl. Yes, it's a younger character, but don't sleep on her because she has her own little virtues. And the show that they're doing right now is spot on. I'm not gonna lie, when I first seen the like promo pictures about it and stuff like that, I was like, oh, I'm not a fan of this art style. Like they love to do these new cartoons in this style. I don't know how I'm gonna feel about it, but it's so well done. It's super family oriented. Anytime a show has like Childish Gambino on the soundtrack, I'm like, run that back immediately. You know what I'm saying? Like it touches on like young Black woman values or young Black people values all as a whole, but while still having a really good time. So yeah, run it up. Anything Moon Girl, I'm copping that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rich,
oh,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. No, I was just gonna say I'm definitely enjoying the Moon Girl cartoon. What I love the most about it that it's not for me, and I'm enjoying it.
Yes.
No, for real. Yes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Because I think that's the entertainment factor that you know I think Marvel too often misses. Is that, you know, you can create stories or whatever, but the whole point of the MCU and all that is not for the hardcore, it's for the casual. And so when you're able to like strike a chord with people that, okay, this is not for me. I am a 55-year-old Black man. What am I sitting here looking at this preteen? You know what I'm saying? But the cartoon is so well done. Yeah. What I like about the art, Bree, is the fact that it's a little old school. And they gave it a little tinge of old school. I think with the intention of getting older people, you know, around my age and a little bit younger, to give it a shot at, and it's well done. It took them a while to get this done, but I'm glad they took their time with it. So it's very, very an amazing cartoon. I hope they keep it up. Hope they keep it going, man.
Yeah, they already greenlit a second season. The first season not even done yet, and they already got a second one coming out.
Perfection.
When I saw that first trailer that I think Bree is talking about, the first thing that hit me, because when I was coming out, and I'm kind of similar to Rich, I'm a 40-year-old man, and I was like, okay, this is probably not going to be for me. But it was the music. When I heard the theme song, and then I found out it was Raphael Sadiq, I was like, what? And it has not disappointed me at all. Like, and I guess he was the executive producer for the entire, like the executive music producer, I should say, for everything, like all the songs, like you said, Childish Gambino, and even the actress that voices Moon Girl is Diamond White. She's a singer, and I was listening to some of her stuff, and I was like, oh, okay. So that was what got me into it, was the music. And then I have a 2-year-old son. He was on the bed, and I was like, all right, let me put this on, see how he takes it. As soon as the beat dropped, he stood up and he started dancing. I was like, okay, we got him now. So that was for me, it was 100% the music. I was shocked, but I'm loving the,
well, you know,
like
this I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But you know that they the old school feel to it. You know, Lawrence Fishburne is an executive producer on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and Fishburne's older than me. So I think they really had a perfect storm going. They got the old school, and they got the music right, and they got the right voices and that kind of thing. I mean, it's pretty a perfect cartoon. Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest with you. See, and again, this old man stuff is in me. And Bree, you don't know nothing about this. But see, let me just say this. Back in the day, Saturday mornings was, you know, if God made something better than Saturday morning, he kept it for himself. Because we would get a big old bowl of cereal and sit and watch cartoons for hours. That was perfection. Now we got this streaming stuff or whatever, and you know, and I get it. Technology, it drives everything. It is what it is. But that's what it gives me. It gives me Saturday morning cartoon feels.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. And I'm glad you mentioned Lawrence Fishburne, because I was reading some behind the scenes stuff. Apparently, like, he's the one that pushed it forward. He's the one that got the show made, because he was going into a comic shop and he saw Moon Girl and he was like, what is this? Like a young Black girl comic? And I didn't know that. I didn't know he goes into the comic shop. I love Lawrence Fishburne, but I didn't know that about him. And he does the voice of the Beyonder on the show. And
spot on.
Yeah, that is fantastic. So yeah, everyone, if you're watching this YouTube channel, number one, I did a Moon Girl video, so go back and watch that. But we all of us here are recommending it. You should watch it if you haven't watched it. It's all ages. You know, anybody can enjoy it. There's great messages. It's got heart. It's got soul. It's got the music. Just the storyline. Like everything is just fun on that show. So I've been
black.
yeah, I've been 100% enjoying it. Another thing that I'm enjoying, man, a lot of Marvel stuff. So I rewatched Into the Spider-Verse last night with my wife, and number one, Miles Morales means a lot to me because I am African American. My wife is Latina, so our son is Miles Morales. Like that, he embodies that character. So whenever, number one, that Into the Spider-Verse movie brought him into the mainstream, because you know comic fans knew about him, but like the movie I think is really what blew him up, and he is the popularity of Miles Morales is because of that Into the Spider-Verse. And then they had the PlayStation video game later on, but he just, that character means so much to me. And like I said, my son is 2 right now, so he's not appreciating it at this moment, but when he gets older, I really hope he can see that, he can see himself on the screen. And so Into the Spider-Verse is probably one of my favorite movies of all time. And then we got Across the Spider-Verse coming out later this year, and I was watching the trailer with my wife, and she was like, "Oh, look how grown up he is," and the way that his mom speaks to him, like my wife kind of speaks a little Spanish to my son, and so it's very personal for me, the Miles Morales character and storyline. So that's one thing that I'm really looking forward to for the rest of this year. Rich, have you been checking out any of the Miles Morales comics? And Bree, you as well.
I'm not the biggest Miles Morales guy. I am reading the Cody Ziegler run.
Yes.
I was late to the Miles Morales party. I won't get into why that is, because that's that old man, grumpy old man to come out. You know, but I want Miles Morales to get his shine. And as a comic head, I want Marvel to do to have a greater investment. He needs to have a Rose Gallery that's comparable to Peter Parker. We have this saying in our community that villains drive story.
Ooh, yes.
And it's the truth. And so Miles is going to need a couple. He's got a few in his Rose Gallery that are good, but I just feel like he needs someone to help to really push him over, to get people to like really, because Miles Miles is not Black Spider-Man as they try to make him to be. He's Spider-Man.
Right.
And so it's one of those things where the only way people are going to see him mainstream is if they begin to really take the investment. And I think Cody Ziegler is doing that with Misty Knight mentoring him. They're trying to mature him a little bit, and which is cool. But I want more for Miles than what they're doing, because I feel like Marvel is they have a great character, but this is just my opinion. They can do so much more with him and the people that's around him. So, and again, I'm cheering for my man Cody Ziegler to really give this guy a glow up. There's a book coming out that I think Jonathan Hickman, if I'm not mistaken, is writing. They're taking Miles Morales back to the Ultimate Universe.
Oh, yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah. So that's going to be pretty good, but I don't want it to overshadow what Ziegler is doing, which is what happens with comic heads, and we get grumpy and what is he doing? Why is he doing it? That kind of thing. It's comics nerds. It is what it is. But yeah, I'm rooting for him, but I'm not the biggest guy. I know some guys that are real hardcore Miles Morales fans. I like I said, I'm an old head, so you see Miles, I see Static. So I'm gonna just leave it at that.
Okay, yeah. Well, maybe when you come back, Rich, you'll unpack that, because I want to hear some more about that. Bree, have you been checking out any of the Miles stuff that's been coming out?
So man, I just have to say that this show right here is really showcasing like the spectrum that you'll experience in Black Comic Lord space, because I feel like my comment about Miles might rub Rich the wrong way a little bit, but he's coming at it from this core character perspective, and like I said, my collection is like geared around women of color in comics. So my Miles Morales experience was the cinematic genius that was the Into the Spider-Verse movie. Love that, hands down. But also spaces where he was adjacent to women of color characters. So like the recent short miniseries that he did with Moon Girl. I caught all of those. Right. That was a good time. We did a chat with Dr. Eve Ewing and talked about Ironheart and his character being adjacent to her in that story. So my purview for Miles is very limited to whenever he's rubbed elbows with Black girl superheroes. But I don't have anything against him. That's not my bag per se. Gotcha. There's actually, you know what might be your bag is the love interest that they gave him was the Vulture's daughter, or granddaughter, so one of those. And another she's perk of color. Being in the Black Comic Lord space, these guys were like, this is a key, pick this up, don't sleep on this issue. We got Black love on the cover. So I was like, I'm not one to buy a Miles book, but I'm gonna cop that one though, just off GP, because that was a wreck. So I feel you on that. Okay. Nice, man. I'm loving this conversation we're having, and I want you both to come back into the Vactorverse, step back in, because I want to talk more with both of you. But until next time, why don't you tell all of our viewers where they can find you on the internet? Bree, let's start with you. Yeah, so you can find me on Instagram as Breeze Bookish, BRISBOOKISH. And if you're looking for me elsewhere, I'm probably in the Black Comic Lords group chat somewhere, going crazy about some Rex. But yeah, that's the main place that you can find me. I also have a book club that's centered around QT BIPOC science fiction and fantasy called Be Too Weird. And you can find me on Instagram there if you're interested in that at Be Too Weird. Nice. Rich, where can they find you being an old head about comics?
Oh, well, that's you have to go to Black Comic Lords. We have a YouTube channel there, so you can catch me on every Sunday night. Real Talk with Rich. You can catch me there. As far as my Instagram, it's Richard Wright 507 on Instagram, and come to the Black Comic Lord space in Facebook and Black Superheroes Forever, where we like to troll and we like to poke fun at guys that don't read comics. We'll say it like that.
Nice. Okay, yeah, perfect. You can find all of everything if you go to blackcomiclords.net. That way, it's like you can find everything we just said in one place, because I know it could be a lot sometimes.
Yes, and I will leave links to all of the Black Comic Lord stuff and the recommendations that we have talked about in this episode. So everything is going to be down in the show notes. But I'd like to thank very much my two wonderful guests, Mr. Rich Wright and Bree Forbes from Black Comic Lords. Both of them have been fantastic on this episode. I hope you'll check out all the stuff they're doing, because Rich loves comics, Bree loves comics, and you should too.
That's right.